Right.
And we, as having adult children, we thought we were gone. Everything was done when they all moved out of the house. But that's not the case at all. It's the start of a new life. And those kids have their problems. One has some kind of problem, the other one, has another. And it's hard to be fair to all of them and support them and support their spouses.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
If you don't like your daughter-in-law, you better keep your mouth shut or you're going to lose your son.
Yes. Yeah. Or the other way around.
Or the other way around, exactly. And so that's the one I always kid everybody. I say, that's where my tongue got really sore, biting my tongue. Because you can say some things to your daughter that you would never say to your daughter-in-law. Because there's that daughter-in-law and daughter are different.
Yes.
No matter how you'd like to think they're not, they're different.
Same way, mother and father-in-law.
Exactly.
Hi Jeanette, how are you?
I'm good.
It's nice to see you, as always.
As always, it's great.
It's great
Great
to
to
see.
sometimes it's just waving goodbye or
Yes.
hello in the car, but we get to talk to each other sometimes.
And it's always nice of you to, come and give us goodies on Christmas and everything. Really appreciate that.
Sometimes when we get our grandchildren over, and they like to bake.
Oh,
So
yeah.
some of it comes up good, some of it doesn't. But
Yeah, we really look forward to that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we look forward to giving.
Yes, yeah,
It's fun.
yeah. So, in this life journey, did you have any challenges, or was it always like a bed of roses for you? Or
Well, I'm very grateful to the parents that raised me, and we didn't have any really issues at all, other than teenage years. But I had one brother, and my parents lived just up the road in San Leandro.
oh,
So all the family, the immediate
Close.
family has stayed. Our kids have grown up now, and we've got grandchildren, and everybody's kind of stayed here. We had one son leave and go to Chicago for 2 years on a job, and his wife said, "You better come back. I'm not staying in Chicago." That's where he was working.
so the family bonding was always there. So
Yes.
it pulled them back.
Pulled them back, and we're so grateful for that. They're wonderful, and we're proud of them, and we don't help them out a lot, but when they need it, we're there.
You're there.
Yeah.
You are the strong support they know they have.
And my mother lost her life a couple of years ago, so she lived to 92.
Okay.
So that was nice. She ended up having Alzheimer's, but she lived a great life. My father did too. He passed away about 10 years before that for heart disease. But again, we had fun times. We had games with everybody would come over. We still talk about some of the games that we played where my father, it was a Pictionary game, and my father, he didn't know how to draw the picture. And when he finally looked at it, everybody go, that's a person? So fun things like that, a lot of games. Yeah.
Family games are always fun, right?
They are. Unless you get a person who gets mad when they don't win, but
Oh yeah, yeah. And they'll say cheating, cheating, cheating.
right. It's my turn. So, but all in all, good childhood, and then moved out here in 1960. 68 or 69, we moved out here because this was an inexpensive place to buy a house in comparison to San Leandro and Hayward.
Yes, yeah.
It's turned a little now, but yeah, we've been out here a
It's
long
good.
time.
Mhm.
And my mother and father followed us out here, and my brother did when we were all together.
Oh.
So my brother's now up in El Dorado Hills, but
Okay.
it's still drivable. It's an hour and a half away, so pretty close.
So there must be something you were doing to keep bringing them back.
I don't know, probably food,
Yeah.
Italian food.
Mhm.
But I'm not a great chef.
Mhm.
But
So maybe putting everything together.
yeah, we do have a lot of events at our house, and I don't really do a lot of cooking because everybody brings a dish.
Mhm.
And with 6 children, you got enough to pick from.
Oh yeah.
With
Make a
dessert.
menu and
Yeah,
kind of.
we always end up with, of course, too much food.
That's always the case, right? With
Yeah.
family. And then, so you said great start, family, parents were very affectionate, and you had one brother. And so, what after you got married, everything was fine after that?
Yeah, I got married too young. I was 18 when I got married,
Okay.
and I was married for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Had 2 children, and the marriage just wasn't working. We were not compatible, and so we divorced. And he stayed living around here.
Okay.
He was a fireman, or is a fireman, and he's now remarried and he has another child. And we've had a good relationship, so it's not hard on the kids. When you get a divorce, it's difficult. So we still talk. I mean, now 30 years, 40 years later, we go over when he's in town. We go over my daughter's house or my son's house, and we're invited, and they're invited, and they
That's
live out
good.
of town. But it's worked out, and again, never bringing the kids into the
In that
divorce.
situation,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's how you handled the whole thing, right? It was a positive perspective. Right?
Yes. It was really kind of surprising. People would say, "You talk to your ex-husband?" I go, "Yeah, I do. We've got 2 kids,
Yeah.
and I don't badmouth him." And
No. And then you were talking about you starting your business. Did you start that before you had kids? Or?
I did. Well, yes and no. My father was an accountant, and he had an insurance agent, and he had a tax business in which he did tax returns for the people that needed their tax filled out and everything. And so he started that in 1949, in a little drugstore with a little desk. People would come in and sign in, and then he would do their tax right there as you sat, and then he'd give it to you. It was done. So he kept that business, and then when I first got married, I took over the business and ran it ran it for another 20 years.
Okay.
And that was fun. It was good people, and I learned a lot. But I had this deep feeling in my heart that I wanted to help first-time homebuyers. That was what I was excited about doing. And my tax customers. When the customer would come in to get their tax done, they'd say, "Well, what can we do to, not pay so much taxes?" Or that type of thing. So I started, counseling options to buy a house, of course. That's number one. And from that, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Taking clients out, finding their dream home for them, or maybe it's not their dream home, but it's a start, and helping
Building their dreams from there.
building their dreams. And that is so rewarding to do that. I love it. I love it.
I love that you said that you did it because you love doing it,
Yes,
not for money.
not for money. I really loved helping them. And I had to support myself,
Mm-hmm.
so the tax business was not enough to do that. I needed to do other work, and I just couldn't see myself sitting at a desk all day long.
So you had kids that time?
I did. At that
Okay.
time, they were 2 and 3 at that time. So I jumped in. My parents were supportive. My parents have always been supportive, whatever we do. And I jumped in, and they backed me if I needed anything, because real estate's commission, and it's not always flowing
It's
straight.
not always.
But they were always there if I needed them, and that was wonderful. And then just built my career or my clientele, and then I bought the business from another partner, and that's a little complicated, but anyhow, I ran that for 20 years, I think,
And being a single mom.
and being a single mom, yeah. Yeah, and that, I liked being close to home. I knew, the kids knew that if they did something, somebody would see and tell me. And that was, he finally learned that, our son finally learned that one. But,
So you were close by.
yeah, close by, popped in
Right.
on them when they were teenagers. You get to a point where you have childcare, and then after childcare,
What do you do then?
what do? You don't hire a babysitter for a 15-year-old or 14.
Yeah.
They're ready to,
That's a
Not-
delicate, yeah.
yeah, so anyhow, it worked out. The business has been very good to me, and I love the clients.
And then you met your husband.
Yeah, I met him in a parade in downtown Pleasanton,
Oh, okay.
and we married in 86. So we've been married 36 years now.
That's how many years after you were single?
12.
Okay.
So I have a wonderful husband. He's delightful. He's now retired, and I'm really mostly retired. And that's an adjustment. When you're used to, a woman's used to running the household and not having anybody around to tell you what to do, and then you get my executive husband who comes in and he thinks he's going to reorganize everything, including your drawers in your kitchen, and that's tough. I say,
That's always tough because now there are two bosses.
yeah, because they think they know how to do it. One night we were making burritos, and he said, "I don't think you should make them that way. I think you should make them." I go, "Okay, well, the next batch you can do." And then, oh, well, this isn't as easy as I thought it looked.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of fun with that. I kid
Yeah.
him about it. He says he's the chairman of the board.
It's like two bosses, right?
Yeah,
It's
right.
too many cooks.
Too many cooks. That's exactly right. Too many cooks.
So how was it bringing the family together?
Together, it was pretty good. We have, we had my brother and his children, and my parents, and a lot of friends, aunts and uncles.
Yes.
So everybody helped, just a little way. I had an aunt that during tax season, when I still was doing taxes, she would take the babies. They were, at that time, newborn and 1 year old. She'd take them for 1 day a week, so I could work solid. Those kinds of things help. It's sad when you don't have family
Yes,
to help you.
You need that time where you can completely focus on work.
Yeah. And then as they become teenagers, they start calling you at work. Gina did this, Scott did that. They start fighting.
Yeah.
but they love each other and they're very close.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's how siblings grow together. You know?
Yeah. Fist fight or so.
Mhm. Those are the memories when
Mhm.
you all grow together. So how was like bringing up all the kids together and growing as a big family? How was that for you?
That was fine.
Mm-hmm.
The only downside for the whole part, was my kids played a lot of sports,
Okay.
and my father would take responsibility to get them to the field and pick them up from the field. Most of the time he watched the game also, but that was a relief on me, because real estate agents work on weekends,
Oh yeah.
you know, so. it
So
was-
you could go for their games and.
Yeah,
Mm.
and so he was very supportive. There was somebody there watching him,
Mm.
you know. Grandpa, what do you think of that? Gets on
Mm.
base or whatever.
Oh yeah, baseball, right?
Yeah.
That's always fun to watch those games.
It is.
That's the best part.
It really is.
Mm.
My girlfriend and I were walking the other day in the sports park, and we were both reminiscing about our times sitting on the metal benches.
Bleachers.
You were right. And how you miss that when they're gone.
Especially those hot dogs.
Yes.
I just love those hot dogs and those nachos.
Nachos, yeah.
Those are the best part, I think.
That's
Sitting
for sure.
together in cold and you're shivering and there's this
Mhm.
hot
Mm-hmm.
nachos bar.
And the wind would come up. Mm,
It's always
But-
cold because then games have to take forever to finish.
Right.
So-
especially baseball.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But boy, are we lucky here in
Mm.
Pleasanton
Oh yeah.
with the beautiful sports parks we have and
Mm.
regular parks.
Yes.
I just took our 2 grandchildren over to the park on Valley and Hop Yard behind the tennis.
The beautiful parks.
Oh my God, it was wonderful. I didn't even know it. My girlfriend told me she lived nearby there, and she said, "Well, let's take the kids over there." And
Mm.
they had a great fun. It was crawling. It was we got a picture of one of the kids, Luca, on the top of this rock, and Paloma at the bottom of the rock. So
That is adventurous.
I told my daughter-in-law, well, she's going to get to that top of the rock real soon because she's competitive, and she's going to beat him out.
So, anything you remember, like a challenge, in your life journey, like you dealt with, and you would guide somebody, like, okay, if there's a challenge like this is how, this is how you can handle it, or these are the tips, these are the pointers.
I can't think of anything specific, but I do know that my training in real estate and being a owner really brought things home that I could use at home in working with teenagers or younger, whatever, working with them. Teaching them that, well, it's figuring out how to get your kids to agree to something
Okay.
and participate.
And how did you do that?
Most of it was trying to include the children in the real estate business.
Okay.
In it, not when I've got the client with me, but other times, and having fun, trying to make that shopping of a house fun for the kids.
Okay.
Now it's a lot easier now than it was then, because to look at houses you had to have a MLS book. Now everybody's cell can show you anything you want. It's just like that.
It's easier because of all those apps.
Technology, yeah, which is a fine time to do that.
Mm.
So we show less houses than we did then, number of houses than we did then, because of that. And now we hardly have open houses these days,
Mm.
and that'll change again. But
Yeah, it's just like a
yeah,
phase. It's different.
it's and I think all of us are kind of uncertain of what's happening.
Too many choices
Yeah.
also, right?
Yeah.
So that you said real estate, managing a real estate business helped you build better communication with your kids.
Mhm.
That's was it because you used to talk about it and like go there,
Yeah.
kind of.
And the other,
Discuss it.
the other part is, and you, I'm sure as a school teacher, you recognize this too. One part is solving problems. And, in your part, I guess it would be getting your children to work with other children and
Yes,
not bully them or whatever.
yes,
But
yeah.
in my business, it was the challenge of getting the transaction together for buyer and seller, because one seller wants one price, buyer wants the other price. How to get them to agree. And then the transaction itself is very complicated these days. Lenders and termite companies and all that.
Putting all the pieces together.
All the pieces. And I
Yes.
saw our agents, myself included, is that we were the base of the sale. And then on the edge is the termite and the pool inspection and all that.
Everything, yeah.
And then you have to negotiate those. Seller says, I'm not fixing a thing. Buyer says, I'm not buying unless you fix all the stuff. So what I loved is that challenge of putting it together and everybody is happy. So,
And you get the end result of getting their
Getting it.
first house, as you
Right,
said, she
right.
always wanted to.
or maybe it's their 20th house.
Yeah.
And when it's that way, sometimes they're shocked because they've gotten better, representation than they had in the past. Hopefully that's the way they think.
That's what, yeah.
But we did, and that's what we built the business on. Honesty, trust. Sometimes, my husband tells this to other people, because he was listening on the other, just listening while I was talking to a client. He was sitting on the couch, and they wanted to list their house, and I talked him out of it. And when I got off the phone, my husband said, why did you talk them out of it? And I said, because it's not the right time for them. I'm sure of it. And he said, wow, you won't get a commission, will you? And I said, no, but that's what needs to be done. And those clients, years later came back, made a lot of money in the meantime because they didn't sell. Especially if you're going back east and you think you're coming back to California, it's important to
Oh, yeah.
maybe hold on to the house.
So the trust you established that.
Trust is the thing, and truth. Stating the facts, and then truth. And that's with kids too. You tell them the truth
Yeah.
of what needs to be done, and it gets done. Or they understand it.
They can sense it.
Yes.
It's very intuitive.
Yeah.
They can see it in your conversation
Right.
or your eyes, and they can. So, after stopping working, you said you do work part time.
Yeah, I do. Not a lot, but I do. I'm getting used to this slowing down. I didn't think I could ever slow down, but you get to a point where it's time.
You can spend more quality time with family.
Yes.
And everything.
Yeah.
So, starting a business with 2 little kids, obviously there was a lot of challenges, and you dealt with them with the support of family. And then
I had good babysitters. I found young girls in their 14, 15 years old were good babysitters for after school, because they were in school and then they were in nursery school. And I found that to be good experience with it. And the hardest part was when they turned about 13, 14 and they wanted to stay home and they didn't want a babysitter. So that was the challenging time. That's the time that I needed to go by the house more often than not.
keep checking. and
Keep
doing-
checking and making sure they're all right, making sure they're not doing crazy things. My son and daughter used to get in a little argument and things would happen. So, but it all worked out.
They won't put up.
Yeah.
I think as mothers, you know what's the best ways, how to check them, and those
Yeah.
were the times there was no cell phones. Those were just
Before
the
cell- that's
this
right.
is long before.
Right, long before. Now you can track them down to the
Yeah.
address that they're at,
Oh yeah.
which is, I think, really wonderful. I think I keep mine on, my find me,
Fine.
so my husband can find me if he needs to.
Mhm.
And for safety reasons,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
it's really great.
So for the future generation, what guidance would you give them, like in terms of challenges in life?
Probably, I don't know much about Facebook and all the
Social media.
social media. Haven't spent much time on that, but I've stepped back and listened. And I think that some of it is dangerous.
Mm.
And I pity the parents that have to decide what they can do and tell the kids what they can do and what they can't.
Mm.
You know, I got a granddaughter who put a picture on Facebook, and the next day my husband called her and said, "Take that off." Well, you don't take it off. It's in there, I guess, forever.
Yes.
And kids have to understand that, and sometimes they don't. They don't until they have learned.
Because they're young,
Yeah,
and their friends are doing it, so probably they
Exactly.
feel it's okay.
exactly. Yeah. That. I feel for you. Learning enough to be able to spy, and know what you're looking at, and yet not be intrusive to your
Oh yeah.
kids
Because it is. The world is changing very rapidly.
very rapidly.
So, and then we want, kids to be safe. So
Right.
for that we have to, but we can't
Scary.
really stop them because then they'll be like,
Exactly. They'll either protest
mm,
or they'll be sticking with you forever. But
yeah.
yeah, it's always been a tough age.
Mm,
When I was that age, it was smoking.
There's
That's
always something.
always something.
Mm,
And now it's a lot.
mm,
So you gotta, I guess, the name of the game is disclosure and honesty.
honesty.
Yeah, exposing your kids to some of the things.
So how did you maintain good communication? Like always, like was it having the family helped, or what did you do? Like let's say you had an argument with your kid, or you don't agree with something. How would you put that forward? Like,
Well,
isn't it always hard because they never listen that time?
it's tough, and I was tough. They didn't like it, but I was fairly tough. I didn't take a lot from them, which I think was good or bad. They turned out all right. So, see, I lost my train of thought.
So you said that you were firm with them and that helped.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say. One day, my son says, "I'm going over to Grandma's because Grandma's, just a block away or 2 blocks away. I'm going to spend the night there until everything cools down." And I said, "No, you're not. You're coming home." "Well, why can't I come home? Why do I have to come home?" And he's arguing with me. And then my poor mother's in the background saying, "Oh, let him stay here. It'll be all right." So I got on the phone with my mother and I told him he either comes home to his home or he doesn't. So Grandma and Grandpa, if you want him to live with you, you might think about that. So he argued with me for a while, and I said, "Well, there's no arguments. Are you coming back or not?" And he came back, and it was a fight, and it just needed to be done. He needed to know who was really his
Who was the boss?
boss, right. And good or bad, that's what he had. He couldn't just jump to Grandma and Grandpa's, jump back, and so that helped it killed my parents.
Does he ever remember that, or as growing up later on, or just intuitively he knew that I
Yeah,
have to listen to mom? If she says no, I have to listen.
yeah, yes, still wouldn't, he wouldn't stop negotiating, because he was a little negotiator on everything. But he did, he realized what his limits were.
So you would say to a young mother, like, set boundaries or set limits.
Yeah, and limits that are reasonable and attainable and not back off. That's the thing I see a lot of parents do. If you do that one more time, I'm going to spank you. You know, and you keep saying that.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah.
That doesn't work. You know, you might want to say it 2 times, but that's about it.
Yeah, because you're not going to do it, so that's not going to.
Yeah. I'm not a perfect parent, that's for sure.
None of us are, I think. And it's an evolving process,
It is.
right?
And we, you know, as having adult children, we thought we were gone, everything was done when they all moved out of the house. But that's not the case at all. It's a start of a new life. And those kids have their problems. One has some kind of problem, the other one, you know, has another. And it's hard to be fair to all of them and support them and support their spouses.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You know, if you don't like your daughter-in-law, you better keep your mouth shut or you're going to lose your son.
Yes, yeah. Or the other way around.
Or the other way around, exactly. And so that's the one I always kid everybody. I say, that's where my tongue got really sore, biting my tongue. Because you can say some things to your daughter that you would never say to your daughter-in-law. Because there's that daughter-in-law and daughter are different.
Yes.
No matter how you'd like to think they're not, they're different.
They're different.
Yeah.
In the same way, mother and mother-in-law are different. So.
Exactly, exactly.
So those relationships, according to you, need more like boundaries again.
Right, right.
So young kids, you said you were thinking, okay, they're settled now, it's fine. But then obviously kids come back, and you are probably such a good mom that they keep coming back to you, and then.
Well, we make them, if they borrow money, we make them pay it back. We set up a promissory note and have them sign it and write down how they're going to pay it. And we've done that all the time. It's not always worked, you know, but pretty much they know that we're not going to bail them out for everything they do. And yet you help the ones that need help and are helping themselves.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's a risk of them becoming lazy, right?
Right. If they can always come crying to mom or dad and convince them that it wasn't their fault or they needed the money and, you know.
Yeah.
But,
So yeah, I feel like parenting is it's like experiment. You keep experimenting.
yeah, that's right.
And at different stages, right? When your kids are younger and they're older. Everything. Yeah.
That's true.
So, you know, do you remember any other challenges, or it's the way it worked out is fine?
No, I don't think so. I mean, getting 4 children that are, you know, stepchildren, it says. I inherited 4 stepchildren, he inherited 2. So having 6 kids like that, that was a challenge, getting that team together, and it took years. I realized it after, is that it was the time that were frustrating that brought them together. And we had one Christmas, our first Christmas together, we had my husband's kids and him in one room, and my kids and my two nieces in the other room. Now, his children came from upstate New York. They didn't water ski and snow ski and do all the things that Californians do. So they weren't even used to those kinds of things. My kids were on the ski team, water skiing, snow skiing, camping, everything like that.
Oh, the California sports.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, these two groups didn't have anything in common. But of me marrying their father, or vice versa. So that was very difficult. Even the best of them challenged that a little bit. Even my daughter did. And she loved Joe, my husband. And she kept saying, when are you two going to get married? When are you going to get... And then once we got married, she started talking about her father and how wonderful he was. And it was like, well, what about Joe? He's sitting right next to you. So just little things. We figured out she was struggling because if she loved Joe, how can she still love her dad? Or can she have two dads? You know, that was a struggle for her. But
somehow you, as both of you as parents, you brought them together.
Yeah. So we had stories to tell once we started doing things and we went camping or whatever. And then we had stories together. The kids, my son arguing with my daughter, my stepdaughter Denise, and all that. Then they, you know, then things happen on the trip or whatever. They have those to talk about together. And that's what brings it all back. So I don't think you can do it just overnight.
Oh yeah.
It's got to take time.
And then you probably both synced with each other, so
Yes.
kind of knew what was
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And it took us a while to get to, because the kids would go to whoever they thought they could get the answer to faster. Or one time my son came to me and said, I want to do this and spend the night over Steve's, and in the morning we're going to do this and that. And he said, can I do that? And I said, well, let me talk to Joe and I'll get back to you. And he says, why do you have to talk to Joe? I said, well, I do. And he said, well, you made these decisions before you married him. You know, and I said, well, things are different now. So he backed off and approached it differently.
That's good. So being firm, politely firmed is a message I'm getting, right? Be at any stage, be firm but in a polite way so they will not rebel.
Right.
But you're still putting your point across.
Right. That's not always easy.
It's not always easy, no.
Parenting is not easy. And vice parenting is even harder. Yeah.
At some point I feel like we always remember those days when that was so easy, but today's challenges are difficult, right?
That's right.
Isn't there always easy?
That's right.
So whether the younger kids was more challenge, or when they're crying for no reason
Right.
and you don't know why they're crying, or is it when they're older and they're talking and you don't know
But you don't know what the problem is.
what the problem is? Is it something that happened at school or something
Right.
that happened with,
What the seriousness
older
of
in their
it.
relationships and something is wrong, or
Yeah.
how do you help them?
That it's hard. It's really hard to figure that out.
Yeah, but you really appreciative of what you do for all your kids.
Well,
And
thank you.
as a grandparent, as a parent, you bring the family together, and it's not easy
No.
at any stage. And then obviously you guys did it together, so that's why it's
We have a good marriage. It's really.
team, right? Good
Right.
team. Well, thank you so much, Annette, for coming tonight.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
letting us know. I know I'm going to meet you again. Maybe we'll talk again. But it was
Sure.
really nice to see you,
Really nice to
Yeah.
see you too.
and really nice to talk to you.
And thank
also.
you for inviting me.
If you wanna talk about anything at all, then you know who to call. Just tell Sanjana. Tell Sanjana. Tell Sanjana. Tell Sanjana. Just tell Sanjana.